Good evening. It is wonderful to be with you again from New York City as the nation begins to return. I'm Diane Sawyer, a girl from Kentucky who got her first job in this city in the 1980s. And since then, I have covered so many crises and comebacks around the country. But as we all know, nothing quite like this ever before. For the past 2.5 months, I've been self-isolating right here in New York, talking by remote to scientists, the brave workers on the front lines, and watching the video diaries you sent us from all over the country about what you've endured and still are. So I hope tonight that all of us can stop together for a moment and just look back at what we have done, what we learned about who we are and how we head into the future, helping each other, renewing, reinventing, and I believe, once again, reaching for the sky. There we were on New Year's Eve, Americans living in the most vibrant country on earth, celebrating our lives with careless kisses and laughter, not even thinking about how wonderful it is to reach for the hand of a stranger or whisper a secret. And we didn't know that on that very night, the government of China had told the World Health Organization that a mysterious new disease was on the move through Wuhan.
Us to identify outbreak.
But in the United States, an ordinary week is going by. At the Golden Globes, there is laughter.
I want to say hi to my folks, because, hey.
And then another week goes by, and another week. January 21st, we learn about the first diagnosed case of the virus in America, a man only in his 30s in Washington State. But he had just come from a trip to Wuhan, and Wuhan is so far away.
One person coming in from China, and we have it under control. It's going to be just fine.
President Trump moves quickly to ban all travelers from China except for Americans and their families. Yet overseas in Wuhan, we learn they're building hospitals, locking the city down. Some Asian nations are scrambling to scale up millions of testing kits and masks. While back here in America, we go on with the Grammy Awards, the Super Bowl, 62,000 people hugging, cheering. And we are unaware that the virus is already here, moving stealthily like the silhouette of a shark underwater. Around the country, mysterious deaths are showing up, cases of severe illness hitting the lungs. But mostly you have to be someone who traveled to China to be tested for the new virus.
We're in great shape, though. We have 12 cases, 11 cases, and many of them are in good shape now.
When a month and a half goes by after that announcement from China, the stock market sounds an alarm. Investors are worried about the Chinese economy. And now something else. A cluster of cases surfacing in Italy.
The virus, the Dow plunging more than 1,000 points yesterday. Significant amount.
We have contained this. We have contained this. I won't say airtight, but pretty close.
When you have 15 people, and the 15 within a couple of days is going to be down to close to zero.
A few days after that, another case in California. Brush fires of community spread have begun to appear. And on February 29th, the report of what we thought then was the first COVID-19 death.
First death that happened just behind me here at Evergreen Health.
But as 2 months go by, no one prevents 2 million travelers from continuing to pour into this country from Europe and stream out across the nation, some of them taking the virus with them to places we least expected. Places like the beautiful ski resort of Sun Valley, Idaho, which will become one of the highest infection rates in the entire world. It is the first week of March, and no one is even talking about social distancing when the permanent residents of the valley welcome the last ski-loving tourists of the season. A lot of them are coming from the West Coast, like Seattle, and from Europe.
My name is Jody Zarkos. I live in Ketchum, Idaho. Who lives here? Everybody lives here. It's a great cross-section of families and retirees and kids. It's your quintessential small town. Oh, and there's also the millionaires.
And there may have been something else making its way through Sun Valley. Brent Russell is an ER doctor there.
The last week in February, most of our skiers were from Seattle, and
Seattle was a hot spot at that point.
But none of the skiers flying in knew that, as everyone hits the slopes and then gathers shoulder to shoulder with the locals for after-ski parties.
There were people up on bars, the credenzas, chairs, tables.
Debbie Baca, 53, a local project manager at a construction company, goes with friends to an after-ski party. It is Friday, March 6th, and it's so crowded.
There had to be at least 700 people.
Again, that was Friday, the 6th. 3 days later,
I had one sneeze, and it was one of those sneezes where you're like, oh, something's coming. And then the next morning, every single part of my body hurt.
she gets tested. The test comes back positive for the new virus.
I was first in the county.
After 10 days, we could count 30 people, 35 people, 40 people.
Her friend Jody had been at the party, and she, her husband, and daughter are getting sick too.
When I was getting tested, I talked to one of the nurses about my friend being the first person with coronavirus, and she shook her head and said, that's absolutely wrong. We've been seeing a mysterious respiratory illness for the last 6 weeks.
And one group of skiers who traveled into Sun Valley is about to suffer the biggest toll. The National Brotherhood of Skiers, coming into town for their annual summit. They are some of the best African-American ski clubs across this country. Their goal, to get one of their members on the Olympic team. After they ski the mountains and then head home, their nightmare begins. Fevers, collapsing in the bathroom, struggling to breathe, racing to the ER.
I never felt that sick in all my life.
Mark Tolliver, a retired IT specialist, has flown back home to Pompano Beach, Florida. His wife, Stephanie, a wellness advocate.
So I called urgent care. They immediately said, we have no COVID tests and we can't help you. Click. So I called primary care and they said, well, we don't have any COVID tests. If he starts to get really ill, I would call 911. So then I called the ER. They basically just told me, well, you better call the health department. Everything was just like we can't help you.
She finally said to the doctors at the hospital, you have to help me. You have to help me.
I said, we're not leaving until he gets tested.
He was positive. And all told, after their ski trip to Sun Valley, out of 600 Brotherhood skiers, 126 got sick. At least 4 members have died. Back in Idaho, the virus has already carpet-bombed the small community hospital.
I got high fever, shaking chills.
Again, Dr. Russell.
We didn't have enough people to keep going. There's 7 full-time emergency room doctors, and 5 have been out.
And as their hospital is buckling under the weight of the virus, the people of Sun Valley instinctively move outside every night.
I heard outside a lady just screaming, and then I took a few moments to realize that the entire valley was doing it, howling. Realized that it was actually in support of the healthcare workers, you know.
A kind of tradition, a wolf cry echoing around the Rocky Mountains, support for the medical workers and for each other. In that first week of March, clusters of cases popping up across the country. And as we look back from this distance, we learn something we will now know forever. One brush fire of virus in this nation is a warning to us all. The virus now moves into a town in Albany, Georgia, where the residents are about to pay a price for love and grief. Andrew Mitchell, a 68-year-old custodian, collapsed, dead from an apparent heart attack. Hundreds of people come to his funeral, and then a week later, a local railroad man dies. Hundreds more come out. When it's over, a raging fire of sickness.
There was Monty Alice, Ethel, Betty, Bernice, Bobby.
The county coroner tries to make sense of the inexplicable death.
On the 15th, we got 3 deaths, one after another. Bam, 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 one after another.
Eventually, the number of deaths per capita around the world will rank like this. First, Wuhan, China. Second, Lombardy, Italy. Third, Albany, Georgia.
How did the virus get down to Albany, Georgia? You look for it in a city, Chicago, LA, New York. The virus come down to Albany, Georgia.
And then, in the second week of March, Americans begin to understand that it is in fact too late to contain the virus. I'm in Los Angeles wrapping up a shoot on a story. I get on a crowded plane home as everything is changing.
All large gatherings banned.
Travel now halted from Europe. On March 13th, the president's tone is very different. We have now entered an emergency.
Today, I am officially declaring a national emergency. Two very big words.
By March 17th, the virus now in 50 states.
The White House is laying out.
And it's at this time we enter a snow globe of confusion.
Most recent scientific.
There is fear, there is uncertainty, and contradictory advice. Are we supposed to wear masks, or do masks make it worse?
You can increase your risk of getting it by wearing a mask.
And what about the thing we most want, the virus test that will show if we have the virus or if someone near us is spreading virus without any symptoms?
Anybody that wants a test can get a test.
Around this country, Americans are searching for the tests, asking for them, begging for them, but they can't get them, and we discover we don't have enough.
That is a failing.
And a failing, yes.
It is a failing. I mean, let's admit it.
It is too late. And to stay safe and try to save lives, Americans are told the best option is to go behind doors, stay home. This giant nation, in a sense, shutting down.
We want people to stay home where they can.
A vibrant America about to become #1 in infections in the world, #1 in deaths, and millions of people out of work. On April 1st, we are bracing ourselves for what is coming. We've all been told that we're heading into 30 days of a mountain of unknowns. And I'm going to be talking to all the scientists and the workers I can find who are working 24 hours a day to get us on the other side of this. And for the next weeks, the question will be, who will show up to get us through this? And the answer, ordinary Americans who show up for each other.
Hi everyone, George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel, and don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.